Welcome to the very first episode of Beautifully Built, formerly known as Chick Chat. If you've been here before, you already know this chick is all about real talk, big passion, and bold moves. And if you're new, buckle up, you're in for a wild ride. I'm your host, Karen Otis-Webb, architect, author, and unapologetic life builder, forever curious about building with purpose, passion, and personal vision. You see, when I started Chick Chat, it was a space for women to build empowered, passionate lives. But over time, something happened. The conversations got deeper, the stories got bolder, and the vision, well, it got bigger. It was no longer just for women. Men were tuning in and listening to the message as well. So now, we're not just chatting anymore, we're building. Beautifully Built is about the design of your life. Messy, meaningful, raw, and real. From relationships and reinvention to business, purpose, and everything in between. We're stripping it down to what truly matters. You'll get the grit and the grace, the vision and the vulnerability, because a life worth living isn't found, it's built. Hello, everyone. I am so thrilled you're here. Today's guest is Kenny Barnwell. He is a keynote speaker, author, and survivor on a mission to help audiences keep moving forward no matter what life throws their way. For over 20 years, Kenny traveled the globe, putting on concerts with world-renowned music artists like Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande, and the Jonas Brothers. But it was one life-altering moment when he was attacked by the cartel while on tour in Monterrey, Mexico, that changed everything. Now he brings this true story of survival to stages across the country, not just as a motivational speech, but as a moment that reminds people what they're capable of when it matters the most. Kenny lives in Nashville with his wife and 2 kids. He's the founder of Cruspire, author of multiple music business books, and still kind of hopes he'll get cast on Naked and Afraid one day. I love that. Welcome, Kenny. Nice to have you.
Thanks so much for having me, Karen.
So I'm so excited to have you because it's rare that you meet someone with such a harrowing experience and that had such an impact on their life. Um, and there we are. So you do. So I'm going to let you start where you want to on this story, and share with this audience. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, thanks for giving me the floor. Well, as you said in the bio, I've been in the music business now for the past 22 years and traveled the world with a bunch of those different artists that you named and many more. And, life was pretty good, right? I mean, I was in the swing of things. I was touring and doing what I had loved for so long, but I've been on this venture of becoming a professional speaker. It's kind of hard to make the transition to speak when you're booking shows constantly on the
Right.
road.
Let me ask you, what did you do when you worked with those different artists?
I did concert production, so I was mainly in the field of what's called backline, which you've probably never heard of this, but backline, most people hear of like audio engineers and lighting designers and video and staging people. But backline is the department that handles all of the music instruments for the artist. It's like a real career.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so like guitar technicians, drum techs, keyboard techs, you probably heard those terms before. And I was with Jonas Brothers, which was the last tour that I did when this incident happened. I was Nick Jonas's guitar tech. And so just took
Okay.
care of all of his instruments. But for the bulk of my career, I was in backline as well as production management and stage management.
When they do a concert, how many guitars do they typically go through? Because you always see them hand them another
Yeah.
guitar, right? Because it's now not in tune or whatever. How many do artists typically go through? I know this is a little bit of a
Well,
tangent question, but I'm curious.
no, it's a good question because every artist is different. It all just depends. Like when I was out on the road with Bon Jovi, the guitar player that I text for had 36 guitars.
What?
Uh,
Oh my.
pretty at his main arsenal and a bunch more kind of in storage, waiting to be used. And then Nick Jonas, he's got like 12 guitars, but really 4 of them that he primarily uses. So it's different for everyone.
Okay. Okay. Good to know. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, but it's a unique career, and I've been blessed to do it. And I like to say it used to be my mountain. It was the thing that I wanted more than anything. I've been doing it since I was 18 years old. I started touring when I was 19. I'm in my 40s now, and so but I've been wanting to be a speaker, and I've
Okay.
spoken at like music schools based on my other books that I've had, and mainly about touring and things like that. But I really love inspiring people. In fact, that's what Cruspire is all about. It's a coaching and training platform that where I help people create successful touring careers like I have. And so I love speaking, but unfortunately, it's hard to put speaking gigs on the schedule because you can guarantee a show is going to pop up. And that's happened time and time again. And so at the beginning of last year, 2024, I was flying to Mumbai, India, going to do Lollapalooza, Mumbai.
Okay.
and I'm flying to Mumbai, India, and it's cool. Look, I've been all over the world a lot. And I just had this kind of epiphany, like, how many more shows do I need to do before I make the leap and go build the life that I really want to build as a speaker? Like how many more shows do I,
Right.
like there's gaps in your schedule. You have time off. There's like months off here and there, but like
Hmm.
it's hard to schedule life around touring because touring is a pretty consuming career. You live where you work, right?
Right. Exactly.
And I get back to the hotel in Mumbai and I called my wife and I said, babe, I'm putting in my notice with the bros. And she's like, okay. And I was like, well, listen, I got to do this speaker thing full time because I can't figure out how to kind of part time this until it becomes full time. And I have such a passion to make an impact to help people move forward with the things that they want in their lives. And I can't kind of go against my own values by encouraging other people to go after it. And I'm not going after it.
You're not doing it exactly. And just for the listeners, that is actually how Kenny and I met because we both do this. We both do speaking, public speaking, motivational speaking, etc. So yes, you're right. And it is, to really get on the circuit of doing that, it does take consistency for sure.
For sure. And look, it's hard to leap and just leave up a career to go and try to be a full-time speaker because
Hmm.
the part-time thing is also hard, but I knew I needed to do it. And so, especially I had invested in the program and coaching at the speaker lab. And so I got to go and take this seriously. And so I was like, look, I'll give myself like 6 months of runway before I leave the Jonas Brothers because they're finishing up this year of heavy touring. And then at
Hmm.
the end of this Mexico run, I will be done. Like they have 2 weeks off after Mexico. They go to Europe for another couple months to finish up the tour. But I'm going to go ahead and like train someone to take my place to take care of Nick. And I will move on and be a speaker full time. And, you know, my wife's kind of like, okay, well, I'm on board, but I'll just tell you, you've said this before. Like there's been
Hmm.
seasons over the last like 5 or 6 years where I've tried to go build this new beautiful life, right?
Right, right, exactly.
And I kept getting pulled back into what was comfortable, what I already knew, the road. Touring is like the way I can make good money. It's just what I've built up and it keeps calling. The road never ends, we like to say. And
Right.
so I was on tour with the bros down in South America, and we were going to be heading to Mexico. And the tour manager kept coming to me saying, "Hey, man, listen, you can take your notice back if you just want to stay out here, finish the 2 months in Europe with us, and then like go ahead and leave." And I'm a man of my principles, and I'm just like, no, I gotta stay, I gotta stay. But then I thought, well, what would that look like if I just stayed out there for 2 months? Like it's
Right,
just two
right.
more
And just
months
right. Okay,
it's
right.
a couple more months. And so I called my wife and I was like, well, what would it look like if we were going to stay out there, if I stayed out there for another couple months? And she's like, you're doing it again. Like,
Oof.
you're doing it again. And I was
Those
like,
that
I
know us
know.
well call us out for sure.
And
Okay. Yep.
I'm so
Yep.
grateful for that because, I'm like, you know what? You're right. And And so I'm trying to stick to my guns. I'm in my hotel room building my talks and trying to figure out my abstract and who I speak to and problems that I solve and all the things that I'm learning in the program. And I'm doing this stuff on the road and as well as coaching other event crew. And so finally we were getting towards the end of our run in Mexico. And now one thing to add to this though is one thing I'm really big on is personal development and
Hmm.
physical and mental health, because touring is not an easy career.
I
You
can
know,
imagine. Right, right. You
it's
take a beating.
constantly,
Yeah.
that's right. And of course you've probably heard the old adage, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Well, even though touring has been corporatized over the last decade or so, like all those influences are still pretty prevalent. It's so easy to have access to, overindulging in alcohol or drugs or casual sex if that's you, or even just the simple things of overeating because you get fed all the time, or lack of
Right.
sleep, all these things that most road crew people, in the early days, maybe your listeners have heard them called roadies,
Yes.
roadies, us roadies, are subject to. But I've prided myself at being the fit, healthy guy. And
Okay.
one of the things that I've done is something I learned from a mentor, Brendan Burchard. You know Brendan Burchard,
Yes, I
Karen?
do. Yes.
So Brendan talks about, have you taken your meds, which is the acronym meditation, exercise, diet, and sleep. And it's something
That's a
that
good
I've
one.
like, it is a great one. It's
Yeah,
something
it's a
that I've
great, yeah.
followed.
Hmm.
And like, I always ask myself in the morning, especially if I feel off, like, have I like prayed or meditated today? Have I got my brain quiet? Well, how's my exercise levels? What am I going to catering, just eating all the desserts or eating whatever? Uh,
Right.
and then of course with sleep, as a road crew person, you don't get a lot of it generally. So like, am I reading a book or am I staring at my phone until I fall asleep for the 3 or 4 hours that I have?
Right.
And of course, being a fitness guy and all of this. And so I'm just like big on that kind of personal development in that way. But
Yeah, and
lately,
checking in with your body and mind. Yeah, to see
that's
how you're
right.
doing. Okay.
Yeah, and honoring myself,
Yes.
which is honestly and unfortunately unique, because the road crew people, they just kind of, they party. It's a big party oftentimes for most people. But
Right.
one thing that I've been doing lately is called 75 Hard by Andy Frisella. You ever heard of this program?
That I have not. No. Mm-mm. Tell
Well,
us what is that?
75 Hard, it's a mental toughness program. And you
Hmm.
basically have to do 5 things every single day for 75 days. So it's 2 45-minute workouts. One of them has to be outside. You drink a gallon of water every day. You read 10 pages of like a nonfiction or business, personal development type book. You follow a nutrition or diet relative to your fitness goals. You take a progress picture of yourself and you don't drink alcohol.
Okay.
And you
Wow.
do
All
this.
these, and that's a daily thing, two 45-minute workouts?
That's right. 2 45-minute workouts every
Wow.
single day.
Okay.
And I've done this actually a few times. And the first time was during the pandemic. But what makes this even more difficult is doing it while you're touring, because touring, you might be in a different country overnight or a different
Hmm.
state time zone, and you got to figure out how to fit it in. It's not a fitness program. It's a mental toughness program because it forces you to really prioritize yourself in a
Okay.
big way.
Right. Right.
I really love the idea of being, prepared and ready for anything.
I love
And,
that. Okay.
and I had no idea how important that conditioning would end up being for me.
Wow. Okay. Wow. That's good to know. Good. So you were just like a prepared scout. My husband
Yeah.
likes to, he's a Marine. He always says like you
Oh,
got to
okay.
be a prepared scout all the time.
Man, I
Okay.
mean, it's not, you just never know, right, Karen? Like, you
Yeah.
never know when unexpected crisis ends up hitting you. You might be going throughout your life and then some sort of obstacle, some sort of unexpected challenge hits you. It's not if, it's when, because
Right.
usually
Right.
every single person has gone through something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for me, I'm gonna just kind of share. I know that this is the story we've been kind of talking about off episode here, but is the crisis that I went through while I was at the end of this Jonas Brothers tour in Mexico.
Okay.
So We
So let me ask you,
yes.
where is it in Mexico, by the way? It was
It's
Monterrey.
in
Where is that?
Monterrey, Mexico is where it happened. But
Okay.
this was August the 23rd, 2024. So last year. It's only been what, 9, almost 10 months now. So not long
Oh,
ago.
wow. Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
uh I woke up in Mexico City that morning because it was a travel day for us to go to Monterey that day. And I
Okay.
knew I needed to do my first 45-minute, 75 hard workouts. And so I got up pretty early. And instead of going out for a run around Mexico City, which I had been doing those last few days we were there, I didn't feel like I was going to have enough time to do the outdoor workout. So I went down to the gym, knocked out my indoor workout so I could meet up with the team and then head to the airport to go to Monterey. And so we got to Monterey in the afternoon and we were headed to the hotel. And I don't know if you've ever been to Monterey, Mexico, or anywhere down there.
No, that's why I don't know where that is. Is it near resort towns or is it near Mexico City?
Well, no, Monterey sits in the northern area of Mexico, right below Texas, in the mountains. It's
Okay.
very
Oh, I
mountainous.
see. Okay.
And yeah,
Okay.
it's very mountainous in Monterey. It's a very rich city,
Hmm.
and it's extremely mountainous. Think like California style mountains. It's like there's thorns and cactus and aloe
Okay. Yeah.
plants, rocky, steep type mountains, sweeping valleys. Very beautiful area of Mexico. And the drive from the airport to the hotel, I was actually researching on my phone some hiking trails to go to that were close by because I love hiking. When you live a fast paced life, it's like hiking forces you to slow down one step at
Yes.
a time,
Yes.
literally.
Yeah.
And last few times I was in Monterey, I never got a chance to really go into the mountains and hike. And I really wanted to go do that this time. And I'm researching some trails. And by the time we made it to the hotel or on the other side of the valley, it was a pretty long drive. It was probably like 5:30 in the evening time, and it didn't get dark till about 7:30. So I had a couple of hours of daylight, and I asked the production runner lady that drove us from the airport to the hotel about some of the trails that I was interested in, and she was like, you might not like make it to the top and back in time before dark. You definitely don't want to be out in those mountains in the dark. And so she recommended that I go a different day. And I was a little disappointed. I was kind of bummed out. I was like, okay, well, that's fine. I'll just go for a run or something around the hotel area. And so I went up to my hotel room and I dropped my bags. I got my running clothes on, just shorts, a t shirt, had my headphones to listen to a podcast, and my water bottle. And I was talking to my wife that evening to catch up with her before I went out on my outdoor run. I was talking to my two kids. I have two little toddlers. They were 1 and 2 at the time. They're 2 and 3
Okay.
now.
Yeah.
But
Cute.
I was talking to them, just catching up with them, and I was looking out the window of my hotel, and the hotel sits right on the base of one of those mountain ranges. And
Okay.
on one side of the mountain range is like high end hotels, skyscrapers, like high end malls. There's like Gucci stores and Tesla. Like this, like a really nice side of town, a really nice city, Monterey. And on the other side of the mountain range is like old Mexico, old Monterey,
Mhm.
lots of favelas, like old neighborhoods, things like that.
Yes.
And I'm looking out of my hotel on the ninth floor, and I could see about a block and a half away was this hiking trail. And it goes up to the top of this mountain range. And then it kind of continued on, it looked like, to this neighborhood that was on the other side, because you can kind of see the tops of their houses and a little bit of the back of the houses. And there was like a dirt road up top. And I was like, that's perfect. I will just go and jog up the mountain, go hike up this mountain, jog up the road a little bit, get to experience some of the mountains, take some pictures of the valleys, come back down, and then clean up and go to dinner with the guys. That's what I
Mhm.
figured I would go and do. And I'm looking at this trail, and there's like everyday people walking up and down this trail. Young people, old people, there's families. There were people wearing different types of uniforms that obviously worked in the valley below and the tourist side of the
Okay.
mountain.
Right.
And it looked like just like a local commuter trail. And so I was like, this is great. Like, I'm just going to go up there, check out the sights, get my outdoor run in, my 45-minute 75 hard workout in, and then I'll get to go to dinner. And so I told my wife I love her, went and filled up my water bottle at the gym and headed out on a hike. And now for me, I saw people as I was leaving, but like, this is normal for me. Like, people are just like, oh, there goes Kenny doing his,
Right.
outdoor
Okay.
run. Like, nobody's
Yeah.
none the
Yeah.
wiser. It's like no big deal. And I go to hike up this mountain. It was like about a 15-minute hike to the dirt road at the top. And I walked up the dirt road about 200 yards. And I took some pictures of the mountains and the valley, and the sun was still like, the sun was coming down, but it wasn't like down yet. So I had plenty of time. And this was probably about 6:15, 6:20. And after I take some pictures, I start walking back to the trailhead as I'm listening to my podcast. And I'm just walking along. The steep mountain is on my left side on this dirt road. The neighborhood's kind of up and over the mountain on the right. And I'm listening to my podcast, and all of a sudden, this motorcycle with two men on it pulls right up next to me, like their
Oh
tire was
dear.
right next to my right side.
Yeah.
And it kind of startled me. I was like, kind of taken aback, and they were
Mm-hmm.
yelling at me in Spanish. I don't speak Spanish, but they're yelling at me in Spanish, and they're kind of motioning in a rectangle shape, like for your phone, which is what I
Okay.
assumed. And I just kind of played dumb a little bit. I'm walking along, and I just kind of pointed to my headphones and
Right.
held up my water bottle and was just like, I'm just walking, and I'm walking along. And all of a sudden, after I did that, I'm obviously walking a little faster. One of the two guys had jumped off the motorcycle and was walking right up on me on my
Oh
right
God.
side, like
Okay.
real close,
Okay.
yelling at me in Spanish, basically saying, give me your phone, I assumed. He's kind of
Okay.
doing that same motion. Well, it startled me. It took me aback. And I go and I look behind me, and the other guy had parked the motorcycle in the middle of the dirt road and had jumped off the bike, had grabbed a small boulder, and
Oh
he was
my
kind of
gosh.
running at me, and he throws it at me.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
go
Okay.
and I duck, and the boulder flies past my head. It smashes on the dirt road. And at that moment, I'm like, I'm out of here. Like,
Yeah.
screw
Yeah.
this. I'm out of here. And so I am running for my life. And naturally, I'm like, I'm faster than these guys. I'm running it with everything that I got. And all of a sudden, a second boulder comes flying by my head. And this time, it clips my left ear, and it kind of causes me to stumble on the dirt road. You ever fallen on a dirt road before,
Oh,
Karen?
ouch. Yes. A long, long time ago, but yes.
It gets like gravel in
Skin,
your hands. Yeah.
absolutely.
Skins you
Skin
up.
knees.
That's right.
Yeah.
And gravels in my knees. And of course, I was wearing just little running shorts or whatever, but it busted my phone. It busted the water bottle open. My headphones flip off. I was also wearing a hat. My hat comes flying off, and I kind of roll a couple of rolls on the dirt road. Well, I knew that they were still on me, still coming at me. And so I go to pop back up. And when I did, I looked back up the road, and past the other guy was two more matching motorcycles with two
Oh
guys apiece on
God.
them, hauling ass towards me.
So now you've got three motorcycles basically coming towards you, a total of
Yes.
like what, six
Six
people then?
guys. Yes.
Oh
Six
my.
men. And these
Okay.
weren't like teenagers, these were men. And they were matching motorcycles, and they were coming at me. And I just was like, I got to save I'm like, I'm not about to let these guys take me. Because in my mind, as a traveler, they tell you about cartels in these different countries, and, they tell you not to go to certain areas. But I was like, I'm right behind the hotel. Like, I could see my hotel,
Yeah,
like
absolutely. You
it
weren't
seems safe
yeah,
enough.
yeah.
And they tell you about all of this stuff, but like, and then of course, what's going through your mind is all the stories you hear about cartels, like disappearing Americans and
Hmm.
decapitating and things like
Yeah.
that. Like, this is
Oh
going
my.
through my mind, as well as my kids, and my wife.
Yeah.
And so I jump up and I just start taking off running. And I ran probably, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 seconds or so. And then I heard the first of the gunshots.
My. Now, when you got up to run, did you leave your stuff there? Did they have the phone?
No, it was all in the heat of the moment. My phone, my water bottle,
Right.
like everything busted. I mean, it was just like, I didn't try and go for it.
Right. So, I mean, if all they wanted was your phone, it's there. They could have just taken it.
They could have taken it, right?
So that was clearly not
Certainly.
all they wanted. Okay.
That's right. Well, that's right.
Okay.
And I wasn't about to find out what exactly they wanted.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly. Of course. Yes. Okay.
And so I'm running with all of my life, and I heard them shoot at me. And as
Oh my
soon as they
gosh.
had the first gunshot, I mean, the hiking trail still probably 80 yards or so ahead of me on the dirt road. I was trying to make it down to the trailhead, and this mountainside is very steep, rocky. There's lots of thorn bushes and cactus and aloe plants. And they carved out that hiking trail for a reason, because these other areas of the mountain, like, you just kind of didn't go on it, you know? And
Yeah.
so I'm running with all my life, and I heard the gunshots, and I just was like, I jumped off the mountain.
Oh my goodness.
I just leapt
Did
off the
you?
mountain.
Okay.
And when I jumped, I was like, I got kids. Like, that's what I
Yeah.
yelled, you know,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it was just my instinct. Like, are you crazy? You're shooting at me? I've got
Right.
kids, you know?
Yeah. Oh
And I
my
went to
goodness.
go to land. And when I went to land, because of the forward trajectory and the steepness of the mountain, I go to try to land, and it just snapped my femur. And I go and I roll and slam into a cactus about 30, 35 feet down the mountain. And of course,
Hmm.
in the rush of things, I go to try to stand back up, and this pain just shot through my body because I couldn't walk, and I collapsed again. I rolled another about 15 feet. And when I did, I slammed into another rock and broke my left arm.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
slam into this thorn bush, and I go and I like drag myself in this thorn bush, and I'm in there. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, like just
Yeah.
in fight or flight mode at this point.
Absolutely.
And
Now,
I
are they
go,
still trying to follow you or
yes, at that point, I go in this bush, and I kind of assess the damage, and I
yeah,
look down. I'm like, oh my God, like my hip is like insane pain. I go to try to move. I'm like, I can't walk. I look at my elbow. My elbow is kind of like the bone's pushing out, not out of the skin, but just kind of push where it's like,
yeah,
is it
yeah.
dislocated? And so I kind of snapped it back into place. I didn't
Wow.
realize I was just resetting the two bones, but I snapped it back into place, and I kind of take assessment, and I could hear the other two motorcycles finally make it to the top of where I jumped off. They're all yelling at each other up there. I'm about 50 feet down at this point. Two of them, they went ahead and like went down the hiking trail that I was going towards. I could hear them all running down that hiking trail in a probably like maybe
Right.
50, 60 yards ahead. And then I heard them all yelling at each other up top. And I'm just like, oh my God, what do I do? I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm like hiding there in this bush, and I could see them like looking to see where I had rolled. They didn't see where I had landed because I kind of
Okay.
disappeared into this thicket
Right,
of
right.
thorns. And I was watching them through the thorn bush, and two of them started to walk down the mountain to look to where I had landed to try and find me.
Oh, no. Oh
They
my
started
goodness.
to
Okay.
hunt me.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm in this bush, and I'm like, oh God. I was like, God, please tell me what to do. I knew that if I did not, if I stayed there, they were going to find me. But if I moved, maybe they would hear me. Like, I didn't know what to do.
Right. You're
I was
trying to
like,
evaluate your
please.
options and
I,
nothing sounds great. Yeah.
I didn't know
Oh
what to
my
do. I
god.
thought, man, this is it. Like they're gonna kill me. And I'm like, oh my God, my kids, my wife, I'm so sorry. They didn't know I obviously gotten into this. And like, I was crying out. I said, God, please help me. Please tell me what to do. At this moment, Karen, this hummingbird flies right in front of my face and starts feeding on this flower on the thorn bush in front of me, like a foot or so in front of my face. I'm like, wow, like that is so beautiful. In my mind, I'm thinking that is so beautiful. At the same thought, I'm like, God, you are such a comedian. Like, please tell me what to do. You know, I'm
Okay.
I'm crying out. I
Yes.
said, God, please just tell me what to do. And at that moment, this monarch butterfly flies over my left shoulder, right past my left head. And at that moment, I hear this loud voice yell at me. It says, follow the butterfly. And
Oh my goodness.
I get this divine strength. I put my right hand down. I put my left leg down. I pull myself through this thorn bush that I'm in, about 10 or 15 feet in front of me, into an even denser thorn bush. I followed this butterfly into an even denser thorn bush. And of course, it's ripping me to pieces, but there's a hierarchy
Yeah.
to pain, right? And so I get into this thorn bush. This butterfly lands on the inside of this bush. It's not phased by me at all. And I just kind of cuddle up next to it. And then
Oh
about a
my
minute and a
goodness.
half later, one of those two guys came around the bush that I was just in.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
They must have heard some rustling and they came
Yeah.
around that
Yeah.
bush. And I'm in this bush, I'm cuddled next to this butterfly, and I'm just like, oh my God, oh my God. And I look across the valley and I see the bottom of the sun touch the top of the mountains in the distance. And I just had this innate insight. I gotta wait till dark. Like I cannot move
Mhm.
again. I gotta wait till
Yes.
dark.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so I'm sitting there in this bush. And to be honest with you, that's when the craziness started.
And how bad was the pain? Like 10 plus? I mean,
Oh,
what was,
like I've never felt pain like this before. Like so overwhelming
yeah.
type of pain.
Yeah.
Like my elbow was like, it kept kind of popping back out and I would
Oh,
pop it back
yeah.
in place. I barely felt that because my hip pain was just this kind of
Was
insanely
huge.
throbbing pain. I mean, I ended up finding out later, I snapped it right at the ball. Like the ball that's in
Oh,
the cup
yes.
is literally broken in two,
Oh my goodness. Okay.
like
I can only
crazy.
imagine that pain. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
And
Oh my goodness.
I know.
Yes.
Well, I'm in this bush and I'm waiting till dark to move. And I'm, of course, trying to assess damage and they're hunting me. At this point, they're hunting me now. They hunted me probably for a couple more hours.
Oh
And
my
it's,
gosh, that long. And now
oh
how
yeah.
many are out there? Just the two, all of
Well,
them?
at
What could
some
you, I'm
point,
sure you don't know for sure.
I
Yeah.
wasn't for sure, but at some point I heard two of the motorcycles kind of start to go slowly back up the road because maybe they thought I had, you know, found my way kind of along the mountain in that direction to come out a different direction or something. Um, but they didn't see me. They didn't find me at this point. So they were looking for me. And I could still hear the guys on the trail. Of course, that commuter trail, it still has people going up and down it, like, and I couldn't
Wow.
call out. I had no way to like let anybody know I was out there. No one knew I was out there. The last text from my wife was like, I love you. I'm going out on my run,
Right.
and so but that's normal for me. In fact, it was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
we didn't end up talking again till the next morning. Spoiler alert, I didn't die. But
Thank goodness, because you're here with
yeah.
us. But I'm just still okay. So now you've been in there so 2 hours you stayed in there?
No, what I did was, uh, after it got dark, at some point, about a half an hour after dark, I knew I needed to move. Like I
Hmm.
knew I needed to keep moving forward. In fact, I kept hearing that keep moving forward in my head. And
Was the
so,
butterfly still there, or at some point it had left? I'm
yeah,
just curious.
well, no, that's funny that you asked. Somebody else asked me that same question. And to be honest with you, it's like I didn't even, at that
Hmm.
point, I don't even remember what happened to the
Right,
butterfly.
right.
But to be
Okay.
honest with you, internally, uh, I had this innate understanding that butterfly was God, was a gift
Oh,
from God.
absolutely. I fully believe that. Yes, it was a way
Yeah,
to guide you for sure. Okay.
that's right. And it, to be honest with you, it took a lot of surrender to trust to follow that butterfly. Like obviously in the heat of the moment I did, because if you remember, it took me into an even denser thorn bush, and this thorn bush,
Right.
I shimmied in it and it was just like ripping me up, and sometimes
Yeah.
life's like that, isn't it? Where
Yeah.
the fix is even more painful, you know?
Right. Yep.
But I knew I was safe. And I don't remember when the butterfly ended up fluttering away, but I started to move. And as I felt there was time to be able to move, and they were still around. I could hear them in other areas looking for me, but I would stay in the thorns. And so I was just dragging myself from one thorn bush to the next. And of course, the Rocky Mountains ripping my body up because I had to slide. So, and once when my butt and my lower back got really kind of rashed up, I would flip on my side and kind of scissor myself down on my left side until it got ripped up. And then
Right.
at some point, I was up on my belly and my chest upside down,
Ugh.
trying to kind of shimmy down that way and crawl that way. And it got so hard to the point where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I would just lay my head back in the thorns and I would give up. I'd say, I'm done. They're just going to have to come and find me tomorrow, send a search party. Like, I can't move. Like I'm hurting so
Right.
bad. And after about 15 or 20 minutes, I'd have my eyes closed. I'd be giving up. And then all of a sudden, I would get this vision on how to like move through the obstacle that I was up against. Maybe it was like trying to get past some logs or around a rock or a bush or something. And I would just give up. And then I would get this vision. And right when the vision, almost like a download, hit my mind, I would hear the voice again. And the voice would wake me up and it would say, keep moving forward. And I'd pop up. I would get this divine strength and I would move through that obstacle in the exact same way that I saw in the vision.
Wow.
And I'm moving along like this. This would happen time and time again. I mean, Karen, sometimes it would take me like 2 hours to move 15 feet. The pain
Oh
was
my
so bad.
goodness. Wow. Okay. And a question, Kenny, for you. I'm always curious. What did that voice sound like to you? Is it loud, booming sound? Is it very quiet? Like
For me, it was
for
it
you,
was
what
it
was
was
it?
yelling. For me, it was a
Okay.
yell. You know, it
Okay.
was
Hmm.
keep moving forward, like loudly in my
Okay.
mind.
Right. Okay.
Loudly in my mind, just like when
Oh my
I heard
goodness.
follow the butterfly, like
Yeah.
yelling at me, like, like you got
Hmm.
to move forward. And at some point, like my hand started to hurt so bad because I had one hand to kind of leverage on to move on because my left arm's broken. And I was like, now I need something to help me, you know? And of course I pray like, please God, please help me. And by the way, I was full of gratitude that I did not hit my head on a rock on the flipping down and die. I was so grateful that I was where I was at. I was so grateful that I had what I had left in me. And I kept thanking God for that, but then I would ask God to help me.
Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
He gave me this rock. And there was this flat rock that fit my hand perfectly, like a hockey disc, but thinner. And
Okay.
it had like little finger cutouts. Like, I don't know where this thing came from, but it was just enough leverage to push off onto
Right.
the ground and not damage my hand. In fact, I have the rock
Oh
here
my God. I was going to
with
ask. I'm
me.
sure you can. Wow.
But
Okay. Oh my
what's so
goodness. Yeah.
crazy about this rock?
Yeah.
You can
Oh
even
my
see,
goodness. You're
like
kidding. You're right. I
literally
can
fit my
fully see
hand.
that.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it is. So for those just listening, I mean, yeah, it sort of has it it sort of undulates around around the edges just enough to put your fingers around it and it just fits just right.
Yep. And it's
Really
fit.
interesting.
Well,
Very
what's really
interesting.
crazy is I kept losing this rock. Like I
Hmm.
would move and move, and the rock would like tumble down the mountain a ways, and I'm like, oh my God, my rock,
Oh,
like I would
damn
lose the
it.
rock. And then
Oh,
like a few feet later, the rock would show up again, the same rock. And this
oh
happened
my
time and time
gosh.
again. I mean, this rock stayed with me throughout the entire time. You can actually probably see some of the
Wow.
greenery and stuff from the aloe plants
Yeah.
on it.
Wow.
And so that was kind of like the first real gift from God. I got the guidance and, I'm moving along and I'm using the rock and I would get to the obstacle and the same thing would happen. I would go to give up and I would lay my head back in the thorns about 15, 20 minutes. I would get the visions and then I would hear the voice, keep moving forward. I'd wake up, get the divine strength and I would move forward. But eventually, like, because of the way the mountain was so steep and my hotel, mind you, was still only 2 blocks away.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting here looking at my hotel. I could hear the
Oh my
rooftop
gosh.
bar. I could see the cars pulling up in front of the
Really?
hotel. It might as well have been a million miles away. I couldn't yell out because, maybe they were still around. Plus, they wouldn't have heard me,
Mm-hmm.
across down this mountainside. And I could just like in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, there it is. I can get there. I can make it. And then I would move forward. And I would go through all of this and hours would go by and I would look at the hotel and I'm like, oh my, I'm like, I am barely making progress at all. I'm like, I might not even make it tomorrow at this pace. Like it might take me a couple of days to get down
Wow.
this mountain. And I was
Right,
like, you know
right,
what? I got to stop looking at the hotel. Like I got to stop looking at the hotel and I need to shorten the goal.
right,
And my
right.
personal
Small.
development
Yeah.
kicked in.
Yep.
And so I was like, okay, if I can just make it to that next bush, if I could just make
Exactly.
it to that next tree, that next rock, like there was there's this house that was on the street that had this huge concrete walled compound around it with barbed wire. I was like, if I could just make it to the wall, you
Right. So
know,
smaller milestones for sure, because
that's
yeah,
right.
then you can get little wins and
Yep.
boost your,
That's right.
yeah, your
But at some
confidence
point
and
though,
momentum.
well, that's right, momentum. Because at some point though, like when you're in the grind and I'm dragging, I'm flipping, I'm flopping, I'm trying to move through these thorns and going through all of this stuff. Like at some point I had to go, all right, man, like the minutia of the work would be overwhelming as well. And so then I would look back at the hotel and I would go, okay, I am a little bit closer. And it was just kind of this balance of like looking at the
Mhm.
long-term goal, but then like focusing on the short-term goals. And when the short-term goals got too much, I would go and recheck myself. And it was like this balance back and forth of like long-term and short-term goal type things, if that makes sense.
Right, right. It does.
And so I finally make it to the wall. And this concrete wall was super tall, barbed wires around it. And I'm standing there, or I'm sorry, I'm making it to the wall. And there's this another gift was this rubber tire, and it had concrete in the middle with a pole sticking out, almost like a tether ball type
Okay.
of thing. And so I was like, man, this would be perfect because then I can like pull myself up on it. This was probably about 3 o'clock in the morning. And I know
Oh,
this because I was a Boy Scout. I know that when the moon is high in the sky, past it, right? Like moon is
yeah,
is
yeah.
is midnight and when it's straight up and down. So it's probably around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I kind of pull myself up on this pole, and I'm letting the blood flow down my right leg for the first time. Like let the hip just drop and just kind of like feel some relief off the from being laid down up on these rocks and thorns. And I'm sitting there and the wind's blowing across my face. I'm kind of like going, oh, this is kind of nice actually.
Right.
Hear a bunch of neighborhood dogs barking, and then I'm like looking back up the mountain, kind of recollecting the fight that I just had been going through. And I'm about 2/3 down now. And I'm like, okay, I might make it. I'm at the wall now. I know this wall goes all the way to the street. Maybe I can start hopping along the wall and just like
Right.
follow the wall all the way down the
Okay.
street. Okay, maybe I can do this. And I'm looking up the mountain and I see like what looked like back porch lights of the houses start to turn on. There was like these floodlights, and I hear the dogs start to bark louder.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm looking at these lights, there's 6 of them, and they start moving down the mountain. They start
Oh
kind of
no.
coming down the mountain like, oh my God, that's them. Like they're coming back out.
Oh,
And
are
in my
you
mind, I
kidding?
thought, oh my God, they probably realized that I didn't come out of the street yet. They went back and finished dinner or whatever, and they're coming back out to find me to finish me off, or something. It's going through my mind.
Right.
Maybe they're trying to kill me to like use my
Yeah.
FaceTime on my phone to open my phone. Like, I don't know. And I'm like, this is crazy. And so I go to try to like hop along the wall, and the pain was like insane. And it caused me to just to collapse again on my left shoulder. And I go to roll. I'm like, and I'm trying to collect myself because here they come. And so I'm dragging myself along the wall, and I get about 6 or 7 feet down the wall. And all of a sudden the, the ground just gave way, and it was this deep gully. Like it was so dark. It's obviously, nighttime, but the gully that dipped down was so dark, and I could not see the other side of it. I could not see the bottom of this thing.
Oh God. Yeah.
And I was like, I want to follow the wall, but like if I go down there, I'm not sure what's down there, and I'm not sure if I can make it back out. And I've
Right.
watched enough Naked and Afraid and Discovery Channel to know that this area is full of like banana spiders and tarantulas and
Oh
like
yeah, I'm
scorpions and
sure.
snakes,
Snakes,
rattlesnakes.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to go around. And so I'm going around. I'm trying to like drag myself. I hear the dogs. I hear the guys kind of like looking at the mountain, looking down the mountain. I feel the floodlight kind of crossing over these different bushes that I'm in. And I pull myself into this thorn bush. It's not very like dense or anything. And I lose it. I have nothing left in me. Like I'm
Wow.
like I can't, I literally can't move. Like I
Yeah.
don't have anything left in me. I'm starving. My mouth is like sandpaper. I've got no energy. That last little
But you've been
burst of
at it for
energy
what, like probably around 8 hours at this
at this
point.
point, yeah. And so I
Oh my
flip
God.
over on my back in this
Mm-hmm.
thorn bush. I look up at the stars. I'm sobbing. I'm crying. I'm so sorry that I got myself into this. I was like so sad for my wife. I'm
Mm.
so
Oh my
sorry
goodness.
that I got
Yeah.
myself into this.
Yeah.
I'm sobbing. I'm just like, my kids. I'm so sorry. Their
I
dad got
literally
themselves
can
into this.
feel your, oh goodness. Yes.
I'm laying in this
I can
bush.
feel it.
I covered the logo on my shirt to try to get some protection. I could just hear the guys getting closer, and I thought, this is it. I'm sorry. And I said, God, please, if you want me to live, please don't let them find me. And about a few minutes later, one of the guys was like 10 or 12 feet from my bush.
Oh
And
gosh.
I could hear
Yeah.
this guy breathing and the dog's barking. And I'm just laying there and I'm like, just expecting him to kind of go, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
just shoot me. And all of a sudden, they start to walk the other way, Karen.
Huh.
They start to walk the other way. And at first, I'm like, no way this is real. No way this is real. And I'm like listening, and like the dog and the guy start to look at other bushes and just start to walk the other way,
Oh,
the
wow.
opposite directions. And I'm
Wow.
like,
Okay.
this
And
is
he had a dog
crazy.
with him. He
And
had
they
a
had
dog.
the
The
dogs.
dog,
Yeah, they had dogs with
and
them.
the dog didn't find you, which is,
The
yeah. Oh
dog
my
didn't
God.
find me.
Okay.
And I'm like, thank you,
Wow.
God. And I laid there for another probably about 40 minutes until I felt like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
they're far enough away. And I heard the voice again, keep moving forward. And I kind of felt at that point that this was a God experience. Like I knew God was with me, but I still was scared to die, that I was going to die. But at
I
this
see.
point, I
Yes.
knew, like internally, I had this insight like, okay, I'm meant to do something else here. I'm
Right.
still scared, but like I just felt God was with me. And so I dragged myself along. I'm dragging myself along. And all of a sudden, I could see the wall again. I kind of came back around that one gully and I could see the wall again. I'm like, perfect. And I get a little closer, and all of a sudden, another gully dips down. But this
Okay.
time, though, the moonlight was shining through the trees. It was like a real dense kind of foliage
Yeah.
shining through the trees. And I could see the wall and I could see the other side of the gully. I couldn't see the bottom, but I could see the other side of it. And I was like, if I go down there, I can at least work to hit the wall, and maybe I can follow the wall because I'm getting closer. The sunlight is it's still dark out. It's probably about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, if I can get off this mountain by morning, I might make it. You know,
Right. Right. Yeah.
and of course, I'm also thinking they could still be just down there waiting on me. You know,
Right.
but
Right. Oh gosh.
I got to keep moving forward. And so I ended up sliding face first down this gully on my chest. And I slide down
Wow.
this gully and I kind of land. It was about 10 or 12 feet down. I kind of land. I look over, and in the moonlight is this patch of aloe plants. I'm like, thank you, God. I was like, I can eat the aloe. I can get some energy. Like, thank you.
Yes.
My mouth is like sandpaper. I'm so starving and I had no more energy. And then I look over, and in the aloe plants is this snake
Oh dear
staring
God.
right
Oh,
back at me. And this
oh
thing,
my
I
God.
didn't see the end of this snake. I only saw like the first
Oh,
maybe 2 or 3 feet of it, and its head was
but
just
it's
staring
big.
back at me. And it was
Okay.
clearly big. And I'm like talking to him, like, Mr. Snake, I'm just passing through, like I'm just trying to
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but I'll tell you, Karen, I was in that gully for almost 3 hours. It was
With
like
the snake.
about 2.5 more hours I was in that gully.
Oh my goodness.
And
Wow.
I end
Do
up,
you eat the aloe plant? I mean,
yeah, it's,
it doesn't then, attack
well,
you, the snake?
no, what was so crazy was it moved a few times and just kind of resettled, but it did not come at me at all. It probably like looked at me and was just like, this poor fella,
Yeah,
but,
right, right, right.
I'm like dragging myself through, and it took me so long because on the bottom of this gully was all of these different, these sticks that were intertwined. I was trying to get my hip over it, my leg over it, and the pain, I'm trying to get up and over these
Yeah.
bundles of sticks that was at the bottom of this washed out
Okay.
gully, and
Right.
to make it to the wall. And I finally do. But during that time, yes, I broke off aloe. I was able to eat aloe, but I will say that there's must be some sort of protective mechanism in aloe, because although it was nourishing, my mouth dried even worse
Oh,
than before
really?
the aloe.
Okay.
Like it was
Huh.
really dry, but I kept eating it because it was some sustenance and was nourishing. I make it to the wall and I'm dragging myself along. And I ended up getting another gift, which was this 5-gallon bucket that was sitting along the wall that actually helped me to be able to take some more relief off my hip. And I'm sitting there a little bit, able to help me get around this tree that was along the wall. That was a
Mm-hmm.
challenge. And I'm climbing along the wall some more. And I finally get to like the last 12 feet of the mountain. But the last 12 feet of this mountain was like this really steep drop, this hill, and it
Yeah.
was covered in really tall grass, like 3 foot tall grass. And I could
Hmm.
see cars start to pass by because the sun was up, or the sun was coming up. It was daylight a little bit, twilight, but the sun itself was not high in the sky or anything, but it was light out. And then I got another gift, which was this half of like a bin, like a Tupperware bin. And that
Okay.
allowed me to like lay on my back and stick my head and my shoulders in the bin. And it basically helped me sled down this grass like safely because
Okay.
it
Yeah.
spread the grass out for me, and I was able
I
to kind
see.
of slide down this thing. And I ended up being able to, at that point, I was obviously scared that they were still down there, waiting.
Yeah.
But I needed to cross the road because my hotel was on the other side of the road. And at this point, I came out about 2.5 blocks down from where I
Um,
initially started,
oh, wow.
right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Like it was like 2.5 blocks down to the corner and then another block and a half down this mountain road to the hotel. And
Okay.
so
Right.
I kind of like body crawled and scissored my way across the road to the other
Oh
side of
my
the
goodness.
road.
Yeah.
And of course, some cars would pass by and some of them I'd try to holler out for.
Yeah.
Um, and then some of them I would cower because I didn't know. They looked a little suspect,
Right. Right.
slowly passing by me. I even made eye contact with a couple of different people driving cars, and they looked at me like, sorry, can't help you. They must have known what was
Wow.
up on that hill.
Right. Exactly.
And
Wow.
I
Okay.
get over across the other side of the sidewalk, and I now have 2 blocks to drag myself forward.
Oh gosh.
And it,
Uh-huh.
by the way, it took me an hour to get from there to the corner. But what was so crazy was I got another gift. And this gift, I don't know how or why, but only on the 2 blocks of sidewalk that I was on, not before it, not after it, not across the street, was a layer of hay. It wasn't a construction zone or
Really?
anything, but there was this
Yeah.
layer of hay that provided
Huh.
enough slide for me and cushion for
Yes.
me because my body's ripped up that it allowed me to actually pull myself all the way down to the corner. And by the time I made it
Wow.
to the corner, I see a couple people. I try to call for help. People aren't kind of, willing to help me, or at least they didn't want to or something. But finally, this young guy, I see him across the street. He's talking on his cell phone, his on speakerphone, and I just call out, "Help, help!"
Yeah.
Best I could talk. And he sees me, comes across the street hesitantly, and I was like, "Look, you don't have to touch me. I know I probably look crazy, but like I was just attacked. And can you please go and around the corner down to that hotel and tell them that one of their guests is up on the sidewalk. He can't walk and he was attacked." And he's
Yes.
like, "I'll be right back." And so he goes down there, and it took him about 8 minutes to get back before the hotel kind of came back up there with their security and they sent a car
Hmm.
for me. But that was one of the most scariest 8 minutes, Karen, because
Oh, I
across the
bet.
street was the trailhead that I had started at.
Oh my goodness. Wow. So
And
they
I
could
was
come
just like,
out right there.
I was just
Yeah.
thinking, like, at any moment, they're just going to come walking down this trail. And fortunately, the hotel came up there with a Cadillac SUV and pulled me up into it very painfully. I'm laying face down in the back seat, and my hips
Oh
bad. They had to
gosh.
like,
Yeah.
help me with my legs in. They gave me water and soda and stuff. And I'm sitting there at the hotel, and I'm trying to tell them who I was and what band I was with and affiliated with. And they were trying to find my tour manager. And I'm sitting there in the car, and the tour manager finally comes down with one of the artists that I was with, security, and comes down because they had told him like some Kevin guy was attacked, and he's
Okay.
sitting in the
Right.
car because they didn't understand Kenny in English, I guess. And
Yeah.
so they
Yeah.
told him some Kevin guy, and he's like, "Well, we don't have a Kevin in our
Yeah.
organization." He's like, "This is weird." And so he comes down, he opens the door, and there I was, bloodied up, cactus all in
Oh,
me.
wow.
And just like he looked at me and he turned white as a ghost, because here's Mr. Positive, the fitness guy, the one that's always encouraging
Right.
everybody to live their best life. Here he is, this happened to. And so
That
the
is,
security guy,
yeah.
Steve, the security guy, he goes, "Hey, do you want to call your wife?" And I'm like, "I would love to, you know?" And Steve gives me his phone. He goes, "Listen, she might not answer because she don't recognize the number." He goes, "I probably wouldn't leave her a message. Maybe don't say too much on the message if you do. You know, don't scare her."
Right,
And I'm
right.
like,
Probably good advice. Yeah.
and I go, and I, so they close the door and it's just me in there, and I call her and it goes to voicemail, of course. And I go, "Baby, it's me. I was just attacked and I'm okay, but I'm headed to the hospital. I love you." And I just broke down crying. It all just hit me at that moment.
My
And I
gosh.
just
Yeah.
started sobbing, and I pressed end as quick as I could. But of course, about 5 minutes later, she calls back immediately to Steve's phone and they put me in touch with her. But ultimately, like, the police was interrogating me. I'm like, I didn't see anything, because you don't know who to trust down there. You know, the cartel is so embedded in that country,
Right,
in their
right.
politics and their police. Like, you hear about it, all of it. And so all I said was like, it was guys on a motorcycle in a gang. Like, I don't know, right? Well,
Mhm.
what I didn't know about that mountainside was that neighborhood on the other side of that mountain range was one of the most dangerous favelas, one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in all of the Americas, because
You're kidding.
Monterey sits
For
right below
cartel?
Texas for cartel.
For cartel. Okay.
That's right. Monterey sits right below Texas in the state of Nuevo Leon. So it's like cartel land, you know?
Wow. Yeah.
And I found this out later on by some of the locals. They were just like, "Oh yeah, that's those guys, because they had guns. That signifies the cartels. That the gangs don't typically have the guns that the cartel do, but that those guys were probably the watchmen for that neighborhood, on the backside of that neighborhood,
So
and they
you
just saw
walked, like,
some
right
gringo up
into
there
the
taking pictures."
lion's, yeah, you walked right
Right?
into the lion's den. Holy cow.
Holy cow!
Okay. Oh my goodness.
Well, I finally get to the hospital in Mexico to get looked over, and the hospital staff was so amazed that I didn't die on the mountain, because they're like, when someone has a broken hip or something, they tell them to stay still. They're just like, "Stay
Really?
still, because there are some serious main arteries that run through your hip."
Oh,
And they're like, "You
wow.
could have
Yeah.
had an aneurysm. We tell people don't move. You moved and drug yourself for over 12 hours."
Gosh. Yeah.
And I was like, well, God was on my side, right? God gave me another chance. And
Mhm.
ultimately, the artist that I was with sent a private medical jet to fly me out of Mexico, to pluck me out of the country, brought me back to Tampa, where I was living at the time. I ended up getting an emergency total hip transplant. I have a brand new hip,
Wow.
metal in my arm, and I've got my
Yeah.
life. And at that point, I am now forcibly not taking road gigs, and working on building my speaking career to share this message of resilience with people. So
What a story. I'm just, and I have that, like, empath thing where I really feel so, like, I actually I don't know if you saw I had to grab water because I was like,
uh,
the end where you're calling your wife, I mean, my stomach, I didn't feel, I felt sick to my stomach for a minute there because
yeah,
I can just imagine how she felt getting that message. And
yeah.
oh my gosh, so many nuggets to break down in this though. So wow. Um, wow. So let's see. Oh my gosh. So first of all, what do you think? Um, what are the lessons you learned from it? I'm sure there's so many,
Yeah,
but in terms of resilience, in
yeah,
terms of, you know, getting through something so hard, what would you share would be some of the, some of the things you learned or really felt? And I think also is you felt God is present and God is,
yes,
was with you that entire time, which I absolutely believe. So share with us a little bit,
yeah.
yeah, of what profound lessons did you, take from that?
Well, speaking of God, the surrender was one of the toughest part, because every time, if you remember, I got in my own way and I would go to give up, God would wake me
Mhm.
up and say, look, here, you can do this, keep moving forward. And so for somebody that's like, an in control man, the surrender to God and guidance from God and accepting the support and crying out to help to God,
Mhm.
was a strength, not a weakness, for any of you
Absolutely.
men
Okay, I
listeners
love
out
that.
there. But
Yeah, that's very true. Mhm.
I would say, really it started from the top of the mountain, like it might not be a cartel attack for you, but like when you are pushed to a point to where you feel like you have to make a leap or the alternative is way worse, you got to leap. Sometimes you don't need to know everything. You just got to know that, hey, I got to go and fight for what matters most. And my focus narrowed when I left off that mountain to my kids and my family. And so I
Right, and
I
it's
made a leap.
yeah, and you don't know how you're gonna land, if it's gonna
Nope.
be worse or not, but you know the alternative is dying at their at
Is
their hands.
definitely worse. That's right.
Wow. Mhm, mhm.
I would
So
say another great lesson, Karen, was the hummingbird. I brought that up is because beauty in the chaos. It's so easy for us in the chaos of our crisis to overlook what we actually have going for us and the good things that are going for us. And that hummingbird represented that for me. I was able to stop and appreciate it and give gratitude in the midst of that, you know?
that's remarkable. Yeah. Yeah, what a sight to see during all of that. I mean, wow. And, do you feel like there was so oftentimes people will say, someone that they've loved that's passed on shows up as a butterfly, as a bird,
Hmm.
as something like that. Do you feel that was anybody, your guardian angel of sorts, or there's no one specific? It was just God. What do you think?
I've heard that before. For me, it was palpably God because the relationship that I had with God at that moment
Hmm.
was not an old relationship. It was relatively new, and I think God was showing up for me during this crisis as he does for everyone that is open to him and that asks for him to do so, to show to me that there's something else for me through all of
Mm,
this, that I was made to go through this. And so the butterfly for me literally was palpably God guiding me.
yes. Right.
Um, Obviously, I mentioned when I followed that butterfly into that even denser thorn bush, as life is sometimes, the fix for us sometimes is even more painful, like that bush
Hmm.
was for me, but it is the right direction. The patience of having to wait till dark, when I just felt like I wanted to go, I wanted to get out of there. I had to be a little bit patient. The giving myself gratitude all along the way was a big part of it because that was that continued recognizing of the good things that I had going for me despite the challenge that I was going through. Because my focus was really waning between victimizing myself of what I was going through
Hmm.
and then really
Hmm.
trying to stay focused to keep moving forward, and that leaning towards like, okay, well, at least I didn't die. At least I didn't hit my head.
Yeah.
At least I have this going.
And what was striking to me as you were telling the story too, yeah, absolutely. You could so easily and so understandably fall into the victim mentality. But the way you describe each thing as a gift that you found
Mm.
was really interesting to me. It was sort of eye-opening. But I could feel that sense of, you see that rock and you're like, "Oh my god, yeah, the gratitude for such a small thing."
Yeah.
Your story is remarkable, and you're right, it shows. I'm sure there will be moments in life, nowhere near like that, please God,
Yeah.
but, um, but where you go, "Oh, I know I have patience because I had that kind of patience then."
Yeah.
"Oh, I know I have resilience because I had that." And I think you are right. You are meant to share this message. It's a powerful message.
Well, thank
Um,
you. Yeah,
absolutely. Wow.
it's interesting too because one thing that I pertain to being able to be resilient, because resilience is, in my mind, is not an action. It's not something that you do. It's something that comes through you when you're in this chaos because of who you are. And it was all that work that I did before. You know, it's funny. The very first thing that the people that I worked with out on that music tour told me, they're like, Kenny, out of everybody out here, you're the only one that would have ever leapt off that mountain and ever made it back safe. We all would have just probably died. You know, they probably wouldn't have even
Yeah,
left in the first place because they didn't
you're
have that
right.
wherewithal, that fitness mentally or physically to even challenge those people and challenge themselves
Right.
to go through it. And I know that that was a big part of it. That conditioning that led up to there allowed me to make it through that crazy challenge. You know, most people are trying to climb mountains in life. I was trying to get down one.
Right. Right. Exactly. Wow. I think, yeah, I'm thrilled that you're out there doing these motivational speaking because I do think that is what God was telling you. I mean, this was an experience that needs to be shared. Um,
Well, thank you for letting
so
me on your show. I really
absolutely.
appreciate it. I'm working on it.
I mean, you know that I will be, yeah, I mean, this is one of those. So I do a lot of these interviews. This is one that's going to stick with me. I know that it really, really is. I can feel it. So thank you for sharing. First off,
Well,
if
you're
people
welcome.
want to, so first off, out there, if you are an event planner or you have a conference or you've got a group that would really benefit from this story, I think you need to reach out to Kenny. It's Kenny Barnwell because yeah, it's sort of it's eye-opening and sticks with you. So now if people want to reach out to you, how is the best way they can?
They can just visit my website at kennybarnwell.com. You can find me on there. And as far as socials, I'm on LinkedIn at Kenny Barnwell, Facebook, Instagram is the Kenny Barnwell. You can find me on there as well. And I recently, Karen, uh, finally got the courage and the ability to write this story.
Wow, yes. Okay, so we've got a book coming out. Yes.
Yes, yes, it's
Oh, that's
called Follow the
fantastic.
Butterfly, and
Which I love.
it
That's a great
thank you.
title.
It's going to come out on the 1 year anniversary, August 24th. So, in just a few months here from when we're
Mm.
recording this, August 24th, 2025, the book will be released. And you can join the wait list if you want at followthebutterflybook.com. You can check that out, or you can also go to my website, kennybarnwell.com, to learn more about that as well. But can I just leave your audience with one last message, Karen?
Absolutely.
I
Yes,
just
please do.
I just, you know, remember, it's not if, it's when these things happen in your life. And God forbid it's something as crazy as the crisis that I went through. But whether you're going through something right now or you've got a crisis on the horizon, inevitably, just remember to lean into your purpose, to make sure you really
Mhm.
dig deep into your purpose and appreciate and have that gratitude and really just focus on pushing through the pain because you are way stronger than you think you are when it really matters most. You just got to keep moving forward.
Right, and oftentimes you gotta walk through that pain to get to the other side. There's sometimes no way around it.
Mhm.
Um, thank you so much, Kenny. It has been a pleasure to have you. I'm sure your wife is so thankful. Does she let you out to go running anymore?
Well, I can't run just yet, but I can definitely go
Yeah,
walking. And yes, recovery is its own mountain with its own lessons.
yes,
But yes, I am grateful to be back with my family.
that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Kenny.
You're welcome,
Thanks for
Karen.
joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Beautifully Built. If today's episode gave you something to think about, or better yet, fired you up to build bolder, be sure to follow, subscribe, and leave a review. You can find me on Instagram at Karen Otis-Webb for more behind the scenes, design inspo, and life building magic. Remember, you're not here to play small. You're here to build something real because a life worth living isn't found, it's built. Until next time, stay bold, stay brilliant, and stay unapologetically you.